and welcome to a special edition of the Monocle Daily, coming to you live from the courtyard of the Fundació Juan Miró at the Monocle Quality of Life Conference in Barcelona. I'm Tom Edwards. Alongside me, my co-host, it's Mr. Ed Stocker.
Good evening.
How the devil are you, Ed?
I'm very good. I'm very happy to be here.
Well, just very, very quickly, set the scene for us. What are we looking at? This may be the most singularly spectacular location I've ever done the Monocle Daily from.
You are never one for understatement, Tom Edwards, but it is incredible. We are looking from the, like you said, the Miró Foundation, and we're looking, from its balcony, if you like, from its terrace, at a cityscape of the fantastic Barcelona glinting away in the evening sunshine.
It's a thing of beauty, like your good self, Ed. Ed and other guests today will be joining us. We've got an array of editors, producers and special guests, some who'll be gracing the stage at our conference tomorrow for some insights into what goes on behind the scenes at our annual gathering. So don't touch the dial, do stay tuned. All that is coming up right here on a special edition of the Monocle Daily. Well, what a delight, Ed, to be here. And you were setting the scene for us and describing the beauty that is before us. And actually, the delegates here who are enjoying some drinks just received a very warm welcome to the conference, not just from our own Tyler Brulé, from whom we'll hear in a minute, but also from Matthew Hernandez, who's the CEO of Barcelona Turismo. And I'm delighted to say that he's joined Ed and I now. Welcome, Matthew. Great to have you with us. And you said this is the perfect spot to welcome people to Barcelona. It's one of the most breathtaking vistas I've ever seen, let alone done a show from. But tell me, how do you feel when you look out over a spectacle like this?
Well, I feel amazed. For many things. Nature, the light, the Mediterranean light, having the sea on the back and having the mountain on the front, and 1.5 million people living down there. It's amazing.
Does it ever get tired?
Never. And sometimes when you are some weeks away from my city, you have to come here to breathe again and receive the influence of the power of this city and also the power of the Miró Foundation and the Miró legacy.
I mean, you talked about the light, and it is kind of golden right now. It's amazing. You talked about the quality of this city, of the light, of the Mediterranean. Tell me, what is quality of life for Barcelona, and how can you keep improving that?
Quality of life is having the chance to work and live, having the chance to enjoy and work hard. And this is the Mediterranean, so this is having relaxed winters, a little now, unfortunately, due to climate change, worst summers, but having an amazing light, great natural, great food, great diet, the Mediterranean diet. This country here received the influence of the Romans, of the Greeks, of all the Mediterranean, the Arabs, and this mixture of cuisine makes us amazing.
Also, for me, I've been to Barcelona numerous times, and I'm sure we'll be talking about it tomorrow as well, but just walking down a street is a delight in Barcelona, because I've noticed it's a lot greener than where I live. I live in Milan. There's trees in so many of the streets, and also just sort of looking at the street architecture, there's just so many interesting facades, not just the most famous sort of Gaudi-esque architecture, but lots of other influences. So for me, it's just fascinating to sort of look at those street details. Is that something you, as someone who lives here all the time, notices still?
Well, as you mentioned, it's a city with facades. Cerdà, who's the creator of city planning, created a city plan that you can always see the facade, which doesn't happen in many cities. And the length of the streets is human scale. You can walk all around, and till now, when coming to Barcelona, you may say, there's nothing to see. There's nothing mandatory to see. You go to Paris, you have to see the Tour Eiffel, or Sacré-Cœur. If you go to London, the Westminster, whatever. Barcelona doesn't have anything special.
Really?
Now, till now. But everything is interesting to visit. Small things. Now it changed, because now we have Gaudí and the Sagrada Familia, which came to be, let's say, the Taj Mahal of Europe nowadays. And now next year, 2026, is going to finish its highest tower. So something is changing as well.
Mathieu, it's really interesting. You're talking a lot there about some of the values, the lesser spoken of qualities that really inform great cities. And also gathered around the mics is Monocle's editor, Josh Fenner. And Josh, this is really interesting because these are some of these broad thematics that we're going to be getting into tomorrow, the nuts and bolts of what it really means to deliver quality of life in the world's great cities. Some that are very well established in this forum, but also some who are up and comers. Tell us a little bit about what you mean when you talk about quality of life in cities on the pages of Monocle magazine.
May I be a little bit controversial? I think sometimes when we talk about quality of life, exactly as you say, we are thinking about people living well. We're thinking about this idyllic life where you can walk to work and there's no stress, there's no trouble. But I almost think there's something a little bit more utilitarian about it, less exclusive. It's the greatest good for the greatest number. It's the access to nature that you talked about. It's the capacity to walk somewhere or cycle somewhere rather than needing to cross an 8-lane highway to do it. So sometimes it's the grit that makes the oyster. Interesting cities are rarely simply the cleanest and best functioning ones. But really, when we talk about quality of life, we're thinking about how all of those things marry together. And it should make sense if you're 8 or if you're 80. It's not just the working age, economically active population with the loudest voice. It's, does your city make space for people to interact? Does it trust you to have a drink? Does it trust you to get older and still fend for yourself out there? Is it tough on crime but allows people, the possibility of some freedoms, some civic freedoms? And I really think it's that balance that we look for. And we celebrate diversity in cities as well. Not every city should be the same. And as Barcelona deals with what I'll call, I guess, the popularity paradox, the fact that it's such a desirable place, how do you balance the lives of the people who spend their entire year here and an important part of the economy as well? Maybe that's a question I could put to you, sir. How are you helping to find that balance between being popular with tourists and a great place to live and work and get older as well?
So as CEO of the Barcelona Tourism Agency, which is a mixture private and public, this is the biggest challenge we do have now. When we were born 30 years ago, the challenge was to bring people to Barcelona. Whoever. There were 2 million tourists.
You were very good at that.
Yes, 2 million tourists by that time, now 20 million. Mm-hmm. That's a big change. Neighbors are sometimes fed up of these visitors because they feel that the city is not anymore their city. They are sharing something. So that's the big challenge we are now facing. That's why we changed our claim. We are not saying visit Barcelona. What we are saying is this is Barcelona. So this is our identity. What we want to preserve is our identity, because if we lose our identity, our neighborhoods, our way of living, then this city for tourism won't be interesting at all.
And can I ask you one quick question? I'm interviewing as part of the conference event tomorrow an amazing illustrator called Jordi Labanda, whose work you're nodding, you're affirming me there. He was talking about the fact that the city is a place that he loves, and sometimes even the things that you love, you need to sit down and you need to talk about issues. But he was really, what struck me about what he said is his belief that the creativity to solve these problems is already here, and that Barcelona's kind of done it before. There have been moments when Catalonia and Barcelona have suffered and been pushed to the side or not been able to make decisions for themselves. Are you optimistic about this future as you zoom from 2 million tourists a year to 20 million?
I'm not only optimistic, I'm passionate to make it happen. And this is very important, and all the team, and the city council, the mayor, and everyone is really committed to make this city a city to live, a city to work, a city to invest, a city to do research, to create, and also to visit. The mixture is what will make us what we are, Barcelona.
Well, we're certainly looking forward to being in this city for the next couple of days and celebrating all the things that make it fantastic. Mathieu Hernandez, thank you so much for joining us on the Monocle Daily. It's been a pleasure.
And enjoy.
I think we're going to swiftly welcome another guest. Is that right, Tom Edwards?
Absolutely, Ed. We have an absolute parade of all the talents. Amongst them, our own Robert Bound, who's just pulled on his headphones.
Hi, gang.
He was showing me some sort of wry pictures that he snapped on the way up to the Fondation earlier.
Are you right?
I didn't know that Joan Miro, the great modernist artist, could be quite so sort of detailed in terms of certain parts of the human anatomy. Tom.
He had a playful approach.
Try and put you off your stride.
Nothing will get me out of my stride, Bob. He had a playful approach. All right.
He certainly did.
Also, joining us around our Monocle Daily mics, Carlotta Rebello. Carlotta, I'm surprised you're not just simply too busy to join us, but thank you for so doing.
I always make time for you and Ed. Always, Tom.
Now tell me, Rob, you're a little bit of a veteran of some of these editions. I've just got to ask you, I'm asking everyone the same question.
Yeah.
Vista-wise, how does that measure up what's before your eyes? Use your beautiful words to tell us what you're looking at right now.
I think we're looking at the ancient and modern, and certain things. I mean, it's such a wonderful landscape. We're looking up the hill, as it were, rather than down the hill from the sea to the hill to the sea. And isn't it a beautiful thing? We can see some wonderful sculptures scattered around in the garden here at the Joan Miro Foundation around us. And I can see that weird thing at the top of the hill, which is up toward Montjuic, which is something like a Disney castle, which has attached to it a crazy kind of sort of, I wouldn't call it a poor man's Disneyland, but it's Disneyland with some accents on it, and it is an amazingly weird thing to have on the top of a hill. A castle that looks like it might have been from sort of built by a German, King Ludwig, but I think it was built in 1950s out of polystyrene. But that is one of the weird and wonderful things that makes Barcelona such an interesting city. We're going to bore down into it tomorrow and over the next couple of days, and possibly even on this very radio show, Tom.
We will indeed. And Carlotta, tell me a little bit about that, because I guess one of the great privileges actually of what we do at Monocle, and particularly with your urbanist program hat on, is that we get to go into these cities, parachute into them, metaphorically, not literally, as it were, but interrogate some of these things. What is that perfect mix? And what is always striking at events like this is that you realise in different places, in different times of the year, the mix is very different. And it's interesting, isn't it, that there isn't a one-size-fits-all. It's one of the great challenges, I guess, for planners in City Hall, people who are in leadership positions in municipalities, to try and deliver that without having a playbook that you can always turn to.
Absolutely. And while, of course, we encourage not just here at our conference, but everywhere, this idea of shared ideas and shared solutions, we do know that what will work here in Barcelona doesn't necessarily work in the Bosphorus in Istanbul, the location of last year's edition. And it's just so interesting to hear from all these different people, from city leaders to planners to architects to designers, and sometimes also just activists, citizens who are taking change into their own hands to deliver a better city. You know, with Barcelona, the whole reclaiming territory from the streets, increasing the pavements, creating what they call play pavements. Some of them are playgrounds, some of them are sitting areas, others are the extension of a cafe or of a gallery. And right now, Tom, you were talking about seasonality, is a really interesting moment for the city, because in the summer, and yes, it is still very much summer, this is a city where the playgrounds in schools over the weekends are open to the public to tackle this shortage of public areas and of playgrounds during the normal day for children, so that during the summer this can spill out into other parts of the city. And this idea of how we use dead spaces in cities is something that appeals to us very much on the urbanist team, and how we can ensure that as a city working 24/7, we better utilize these spaces. And this is a prime example for it.
She's across it all, isn't she?
Yes.
Yes,
urbanism,
organising this quality of life conference. She's been, telling everyone what to do during our rehearsals today. I mean, we are here, of course, for the big deal, the big event that is tomorrow's Quality of Life Conference. It's going to be a very packed day. Maybe I'll come to you, Rob, but you can both sort of explain, give us a brief teaser for those who are listening who haven't been able to make it, of what's coming up and sort of the panels, I guess, that you're both going to be hosting.
I'll go for I've got a couple of panels, super interesting. One is about longevity. And I felt, as well, I was speaking to my co-host Sophie Grove, who's obviously far better preserved than I am, the editor of Convex magazine. I felt very seen, actually, by presenting the longevity thing. But it'll be recorded, and I'll be taking a very sizable notebook and very sizable notes.
All those oxygen chambers you've been in.
I've heard of antioxidants, but I didn't know you could get them legally these days.
Are you the before or the after, Rob, in the longevity panel? A bit of both?
I'm a meme. I think that's
Rob is actually 473 years old.
Yeah, he's looking good on it.
He's looking great.
And I'm also also hosting a panel on the future of mobility and what does the car mean, whether in the city or outside of the city. Maybe outside of the city is super relevant for my guest tomorrow, who is the global MD of Range Rover, who are also driving some of us guests around Barcelona in these very swish new Range Rover models. So it's going to be horses for courses and lightness and shade tomorrow, at least for me. What about you, Colin?
Well, yes, speaking of lightness and shade, I think one of my obsessions is perhaps one of the toughest, because we are talking about, positive and quality of life, but it's never easy with geopolitics, is it, Rob? And one of the sessions I'm doing is indeed about, making sense of the world today. We know we live in an era of uncertainty, but, look around the room. A lot of the people attending are business owners, they're founders, they're thinking about maybe making changes to their careers. What are some of the risks that they should have in mind when looking at new regions or new markets or perhaps new ventures? So we'll be taking geopolitics, economics, all under the same hat, and then towards the end of the day, myself and Andrew Tuck will be very fortunate to speak to the mayor of Cape Town, a city that is not shy about its challenges, but is really trying to change how things are done, and this idea of Vision 2030 for Cape Town. Again, going back to the summer season, one of the big things that they've been pushing forward is the reopening of public swimming pools. And in 3 months, they reopened 35 public swimming pools, and they're aiming to open 97, reopening 97 by the end of next year, which is quite remarkable.
Once they can get the crocodiles out.
Hey.
different strokes for different folks.
Yes, exactly.
Rob and Carlotta, thank you so much for being with us. Carlotta, you should go and get yourself a large white wine. You've been very busy today. Ed, we're going to be joined by our fashion director, Natalie Theodosi, and I believe by Monocle's founder and the convener of this crazy thing. Tyler Blaine in just a minute. But just talk to me a little bit about how you go about comparing notes. You're obviously based in Milan now. You're popped up in Barcelona, a city you know pretty well. We see you in London from time to time. What's your journalistic approach? Are you one of those guys, the old-fashioned scribes? You got your notebook, you're jotting down thoughts and making comparisons all the time. How do you compare apples and oranges? Because these cities have different challenges, like Carlotta was saying, but they have different opportunities. What's the Ed Stocker technique for compare and contrast?
Well, it's quite funny because, I think, to your point a bit, people have often, I've lived in Buenos Aires, I've lived in New York, and now Milan. And people say, what's your favourite city? And I think that's
Ed, what is your favourite city?
Well, the answer is it's an impossible question to answer. So each has its own attributes. And so, I don't know, when it comes to it's just a question of observing, absorbing, taking notes, all of the above. But enough from me. Because,
let's introduce
Natalie is here. Tyler Brule has slid or walked to the microphone. So they're ready. Welcome.
No one is sliding on these terracotta tiles, I'll tell you that much right now.
Tyler, I think I've kind of set the tempo and set the scene a little bit, but I must get your well-trained eye on this, because we were remarking earlier, comparing with the banks of the Bosphorus around this time last year, of course. How do you score this? This is a robust 9 out of 10, isn't it, view-wise?
This is quite something, because of course we're looking west, because last time, amazing view over the Bosphorus at our conference in Istanbul last year, but you were looking east, and it's great to have this romance about looking towards Asia, but this is quite something. Spectacular light, couldn't be a better setting, amazing crowd, record turnout as well for a quality of life conference.
Natalie, I want to come in to you in 1 second. I've got one more question for Tyler. You mentioned Istanbul last year. Maybe an obvious question, but why do we do this? Why do we do a quality of life conference every year? Obviously, people coming from all over the world, but what inspires us to bring these people together and do this event?
Certainly not to land the host mayors in jail. That is not why we do these things. It's rather unfortunate that we've had two recent alumni who are behind bars as urban leaders. We do this for a variety of reasons, because I would say, Ed, it's what's on the label of our brand. I mean, since we started at the get-go, all the way back at, well, not quite the start of the 2000s, but I think the focus of what we wanted to do was, within an urban environment, what are those forces every day that can improve the way people live? And whether that is education, whether it's healthcare, whether it's the quality of retail, whether it's infrastructure, it's all of those things. And this is a celebration of that. This is bringing together, of course, the voices who can be around the microphone on stage, but then, of course, people who really want to learn and have a bit of a masterclass firsthand.
And Natalie, I think that's really interesting because one of the panels that you're going to be hosting tomorrow is about, I guess it's kind of what Tyler says, looking at things a little differently. And even for successful businesses, sometimes it's not about following the herd. It's not about chasing the big payday. It can be about stopping, getting a fresh perspective and actually making a radically different decision. These kind of events are super important. It doesn't matter whether you're an urban planner or whether you're running a great fashion business or in retail. There's learnings to be had from convening in these kinds of scenarios, right?
Exactly, and I think that's going to be a really interesting conversation. A lot of people are curious about why these two designers who were doing so well, they were growing, they decided to press pause without looking for a big sale or an exit. And we've been speaking now about their sabbatical and about the value of stopping to gather fresh inspiration. And they had just started the business at 20, so they're having a great time just reinventing themselves. So we'll be talking a lot about that. And I like you say, it can apply to anyone from lots of different sectors.
I do want a slight change of tone, and we're going to be covering the story, of course, on our The Globalist in the morning. We've talking, Tyler, you're always sharply turned out and looking fresh, but we've lost one of the, the great names in fashion, in style, but somebody who, again, talking about transcending disciplines, the late Giorgio Armani, somebody who kind of became bigger than just his business. A couple of reflections. Giorgio Armani's passed, I think, age 91. What kind of legacy does he leave behind?
I think in many ways, Natalie just set it up in a curious way. We think about the people who are speaking tomorrow, because there's been so much focus and attention, Tom and Ed, around this notion of was he going to sell, was the entity, the holding, etc. Why was there no exit? This was a conversation a decade ago, it was 5 years ago, it was 3 years ago, Natalie, where everyone was thinking, what are they going to do? Why isn't he capitalizing on this? Why isn't he building on this moment? And I think it's actually very interesting. He ran this to the end, his way. Of course, there's a question mark as to what happens next. But I think one of the really remarkable things, and it's a piece I've commented on for tomorrow's Globalist, is we're in this era right now where, of course, every time, and Natalie, you've been writing about this at length, every time a new creative director comes in, the brand that you sort of loved maybe for the last 5 or 6 years, it suddenly does a complete about-face. It does a left-hand turn, it does a right-hand turn. It's not the brand that you bought into. But if you think about the essence of Armani, the silhouette, the suitings, what he did in terms of couture, there was a very, very clear line, and there was no sense of schizophrenia. Of course, there were diffusion brands launched, closed, etc. But I think one of the remarkable things is that this is a designer, a creator, an entrepreneur who stuck to what he did.
Exactly. I mean, I've been looking back at his life and thinking about him, and I think he's one of the few designers who remained the sole owner of his business. And his sense of precision was just incredible. When I went to his shows, you were really immersed into his world and everything was thought of. And what I found incredible was in June, in his last menswear shows, it was the first time in 50 years where he could not attend, but his team was saying that he was on a FaceTime call approving every look, even the makeup, every single detail was down to him. And that sense of precision is incredible. And I think also he's trained his team to now continue and further the vision. So we'll see how it develops. And
just I think on the topic of sort of legacy, not just the core legacy, as you're saying, of who's the next creative behind it, but what an academy of people that he turned out. There's so many people that we know in the business who started their careers with Armani in comms, in another part of the business, and they're really, you could say in a way, the foundation of so many other parts of it. So he ran an extraordinary finishing school for people as well.
And Tyler, just kind of a corollary point to that, we often talk about this, I guess, with even the great era of media barons and so forth. Do you think that Armani is the last of an era? Will we see the like of that kind of influence, that kind of longevity, and that kind of foundational shift? Do you think that this is a business and industry that enables or supports that possibility anymore, or do we need to look, I don't know, for a different kind of different nature of leadership in the space now?
I think in terms of that scale, Natalie, you're closer to the numbers than I am, but I can't think of a business which has that scale where you have this sole owner founder. There's nothing else that I can think of which is not sort of either backed by a bevy of private equity or various funds, etc. So no, Tom, I think this is, I hate to say at the end of the line, but when we think about Design Incorporated, we think about Fashion Incorporated, Italy Incorporated, this is a very unique moment, and I can't look to anything else which is similar.
Well, we'll have to watch that space. Thank you very much to Natalie and Tyler. It's been a pleasure talking to you. And I think we're going to, Tom, is that right? Keep our revolving door of guests going.
Yes.
Who do we have next? We have Jason.
We've got exactly. We're not allowed. We're not allowed to choose. We're not allowed to choose our favourites. But one of my favourite delegates has joined us now. Jason's here. I think Andrew Tuck, Monocle's editor-in-chief. Look, he's sidled over as well. Another picture of elegance. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us. Jason, how's things been treating you since the last edition?
Oh, excellent. I mean, I recently relocated from Miami to New York, and obviously very excited to be here today.
And Andrew Tuck, I know how you've been. I see you almost every day. But this must agree with your constitution, doesn't it? This kind of view and this kind of vibe.
Oh my God, we're looking out over the entirety of Barcelona. The head of Barcelona Tourism welcomed us here today and pointed out this amazing kind of bowl where some almost 2 million people live. And you get a sense of how incredible the city is. There's also a very tempting pool in front of us. I believe you're not allowed to dive into it. It's part of the Miro Foundation. But how amazing to have Jason here, because every time I see Jason, you always seem to be on a polo pony these days. Is this your new hobby? I was amazed you didn't kind of arrive Bianca Jagger style on a horse.
If only they could fit a polo field here in downtown Barcelona.
He's being very coy.
Jason, tell me, how many quality of life conferences have you been to? And what do you like about them? What keeps you coming back?
Oh my goodness. I mean, I don't know if I can even count at this point. I first started with Zurich. I went to Madrid, Athens, and Paris. I also attended the Chiefs in Dallas and some other jaunts in Asheville, 2 in St. Moritz, and then a media conference in Paris as well. Oh, I think I forgot the quality of life in Paris.
So pretty much all of them.
Yes. And what keeps me coming, I mean, is really the community and the connections that I've made here. I mean, originally I came here for inspiration. And of course, I get that re-inspiration every single year that I come. But at this point, I've established and I'm creating friendships and peers all over the world that I can apply to both to my personal and professional life.
And Andrew, do you feel that as well? I've been speaking to people this evening who've come as far afield as Kuala Lumpur and Dubai. Do you get a kick out of bringing this community of Monocle readers together who've come from all over the globe to sort of exchange ideas and also just have a good time?
Look, you can't help but feel a little bit humbled about it. It's amazing we bring all of these people together. But I think Jason's downplaying the other side of it, which is that there's an equation here where we're supplying the venues and bringing speakers together and inviting people. But actually, a good 50% of what makes this special is people like Jason who turn up and give something of themselves and tell their life stories. Again, when you look across the floor next to us, you have to remember that nearly every single person has come on their own. And it's not one of those events where you ever see someone standing on their own, because they meet people within seconds. People are engaging. They want people to have a good time. We have people like Jason who are just incredible ambassadors for Monocle.
And Jason, how do you feel? You're enjoying a nice drink on this beautiful terrace, and then you're basically frog-marched and forced to appear on a live discussion programme. Are you okay with that? You're taking it in your stride.
How much warning did you have?
About 1 minute.
Oh, that much? That was
yeah. But no, of course, I'm extremely excited to be here. I mean, look, to have the setting of the cityscape below us really gives you the sense of place of where we are here in Barcelona for the Quality of Life conferences here.
And just quickly, I've got to ask you both. What do you want out of tomorrow? That's the main day, obviously, of the conference proper. We've already had our appetites whetted by Tyler and Natalie and Josh and Rob and Ed about some of the topics and themes we're covering. Jason, what do you want to hear? You said it's inspiration. It's to get a fresh perspective. But I don't know. Do you have anything specific you're looking to track down tomorrow?
Well, look, Spain has a special place in my heart. I've spent many years here. I started coming here on my own since I was a young kid for months at a time, and so to hear those Monocle stories from the region will be very exciting. I get to hear a lot about what Monocle stands for on a daily and monthly basis through its radio and magazine, and to highlight those stories and those entrepreneurs in person will be pretty exciting.
Andrew, you're on stage a lot tomorrow. Asking you a difficult question, any highlight?
No, for me, it's always a surprise that what ends up being the moment that kind of chimes everyone. I met Eduardo Irish earlier on, who was very, very funny. He said to me, he was a speaker last year, and he had another conference booked afterwards, so he had to disappear. And he said, I don't know what the phrase is when you say it in English, but in Portuguese. And he said something in Portuguese. And I said, what does that mean? He said, it's that when you're having sex and you have to break up having sex because you have to go somewhere else, like coitus interruptus. He said, I think that's the phrase. He said, so I had coitus interruptus last year, so I needed to come back and finish the job.
On that note,
I can't believe that Andrew Tuck has managed to bring down the high-minded tone of the programme.
It's a good way to close the show, maybe.
It's perfect. Jason, have a wonderful evening. Have a great day tomorrow. Andrew, and we'll be chatting, I'm sure, as the day goes tomorrow. Mr. Ed Stocker, thanks for being my co-pilot on this.
It's been a pleasure.
Very
Hope
jolly,
we do it again.
wasn't it? We will do soon. That is all we have time for on this special edition of the Monocle Daily. A huge thanks to the guys here and to all of our guests today. The programme was produced by David Stevens. Thanks to him as well. Thanks to our sound engineer standing on my right, Steph Chungu, here in Barcelona. And thanks to Flynn and the rest of the crew back in London. I'm Tom Edwards. The Daily will be back in London at the same time tomorrow. But for now, from Barcelona and from all the crew, goodbye and thanks for listening.